goes. Screen off. Good, yep. All right, screen off. All right, Shane, thanks for coming out.
Thanks there for having me.
All right, it's going to be a good time. So basically, you know what we want to talk about here, and the things that I'm looking for and growing, and what we're trying to do with this podcast. There's a few things, a few questions I have for you for sure. I want to get your background first and what you do and how you got into fitness in the first place. You know, because everyone has a different reason going with your background and stuff like that for getting into it. So I just wanted to hear your side of it and how that started all. So
yeah, so I started in 2015. So I obtained my certification through CanFit Pro.
Okay.
From there, I wanted to be a personal trainer. Started out. I worked at Good Life for about a little bit of time while I was there, just briefly doing some like shadowing and stuff. But the bulk of my work, a lot of it came through was training actually out of a couple of gyms as an independent. So I started off, I was operating out of a small place in the West End, a clinic, just very briefly for a couple of hours a week. And from there, I actually built into training a lot outside. So I had a lot of boot camps outside with clients, a lot of one-on-one training, some semi-private stuff, a lot of athletic development. From there, I went and actually moved into the East End. I started contracting the gym there, and from there, I've just been running with it. I've got another clinic as well in the West End, athletic therapy clinic. I train a couple hours out of there as well. But I mean, everything's been great. I've obtained a couple certifications to date. CanFit Pro, I did my healthy weight loss coach. I did my Gatsu kettlebell as well too, so I incorporate a lot of that in my training. But yeah, bulk of my stuff has actually come from one of the mentorships. I've been working with one of the guys that actually owns the gym that I have contract out of right now.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
How did you get started into fitness in the first place? Like as a kid, when you started looking at that as a career choice.
Yeah.
But even before that, how did you look at fitness? How did you grow up? What was the mindset when you grew up around fitness, really?
Yeah. So the big thing for me was, I always played hockey growing up. I was a hockey player. 5-6 days a week on the ice, competitive hockey. I played football as well too. Big issue with me was a lot of injuries. I went through 2 growing surgeries. I had a rotator cuff surgery, dislocated my shoulders, separated shoulders, 10 concussions. So the big thing for me was, I was always thought playing hockey is that, you step onto the ice, you go into the corners, you're playing D, right? You go into those corners and nobody comes out, right? The big thing was it doesn't matter how big the guy is, you take him out as soon as he gets in the corners. You leave yourself vulnerable for a lot of things, right? Concussions built up, broken my nose a couple of times as well too, boxing and everything. So I was always huge into sports, but the big issue for me was that, through time is that I wasn't protecting myself, I wasn't covering my body from injuries. So for me, the big thing was I'd play half a season, I missed the other half the season with a broken collarbone, I missed it with a broken wrist, and I wasn't taking the time to recover,
you just
prepare
myself.
Out there. Exactly, right? And a lot of times docs were like, 12 weeks, you got to take some time off, you're out for 3 months. Sure, I'll try to fast track it into 8 weeks. Problem was, it wasn't so much as taking the time I needed to recover, and then repairing and rebuilding and then getting myself to go back out. I would take the time to recover, and then I would jump back out on the ice. And I wasn't taking that prep time to get myself good and right. So big thing for me was that it brought me to the point of where, how can I actually hack my body to figure out what I can do so that I can heal from these injuries, from past injuries, but also newer injuries that have come up along the way. And that's where I got into personal training, was I wanted to figure out how to rehabilitate the body and then help more to prevent the injuries coming forward. So it was more from, as an athlete from that perspective as injuries, more so than fat loss or than anything else. Because
you were more on the thin side, I guess, growing up too?
So I was always a hard gainer. Growing up, I always had a hard time gaining weight. I would train hard 6 days a week, and then the issue was that I wouldn't put on any size. I was eating well. There was a time my dad put me on a diet, was like 4,000, 5,000 calories a day. It was the point where I was having 6 shakes a day. Just take a protein shake, mix it in the blender, and then all right, dump a whole can of coconut milk in there. All right, dump another can in there. 6 bananas, peanut butter, oatmeal, everything, right? 3,000 calories in a shake, right? And you just try to chug that down, and you're choking it down by the end of it. It's that bad. But and by the end of this, probably 2-3 months in, I've gained a pound or two, right? Always had an issue with that. So it's changed a little bit over the years, obviously, as your body changes and your metabolism changes. But I've definitely learned over the years how to put on a lot more lean muscle mass, and I had a lot harder time as a kid to put that on. So
So as a personal trainer, when you see a wide range of clients for sure. When you see someone just getting into it, whether they're in overweight like I was and trying to, and still am, and working their way to getting better, or they're maybe even in decent looking shape, but maybe heart problems or stuff like that. What's your advice when you start off for somebody? maybe frequency of working out, maybe intensity of working out, stuff like that. Like, what's your advice? Maybe different types of machines or something.
So I think the biggest advice is apart from just looking at apparatuses and like exercises people can do, that's something you can touch on later on. The big thing is, if we're looking at like smart goal setting, and if we're looking at someone who walks in, if they're thinking about they want to change their life, they want to make a difference in training, they want to start, eating healthier, being healthier, training better, and they want to lose weight, they've already thought the whole process through. Yeah. They may not have planned for it, but they've already contemplated it. So the big thing is that for somebody like that, we know right away the big thing for them is making sure that they have the pillars in place.
Okay.
So we'd start off, for instance, biggest advice I give somebody, right, is if you're training once or twice a week and you're like, I can commit 2 days a week to the gym, 45 minutes a day. That's great, but if your goal is that you want to see results and you want those results to happen in 6 months to a year and you want noticeable results, you're going to need to up the training a little bit, 3 or 4 days a week. Yeah. It'd be better in a lot of ways, if people don't have that time, is to commit to 4 days a week, but even 30 to 45 minutes instead of that full hour.
Yeah, okay.
Frequency is definitely a lot better, and then taking, 2 days in the gym and spending 3 hours in the gym. And a lot of guys, I think, have that issue, right? A lot of people have that common misconception that can go into the gym, you can spend 3 hours, you can train for 3 hours really hard, take 2 days off, and then train another 3 hours. The problem is it gets to a certain point where it's you're overtraining.
Yeah.
And so you're resulting in injuries, you're fatigued, you're exhausted, you lose interest. So the big thing is, keep it a little bit shorter, 30 to 45 minutes, 4 days a week is great. If you have the time for an hour's perfect. But the big thing is, step into the gym, try to commit to 3 or 4 days a week to training. And then another big thing as well is start looking at from a food perspective, like, what can I adjust, what can I fix?
Yeah.
I know you and I talked about this before with the circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
The big thing is that's your 24-hour cycle, your physiological cycle that your body has. It's a clock, right?
Yeah.
So for somebody who works in emergency services or somebody who works at, ridiculous hours, 8 at night until 8 in the morning kind of thing, it's not practical for them. The big thing is that their clock, and if it's built on that, is 8 o'clock you're getting ready to go to bed, or you stop eating for the night at 8 o'clock. It's your last meal of the day. Your next meal's not until you get up at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
A lot of people, that's not always the case. It's just how it should be, and that's how your clock is, or it's how it should be programmed.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of ways to fix that, right? And we talked about it as well too, is making sure that your last meal is 8 p.m.
Yeah.
You get up at 8 a.m., you're having your first meal. When you go to bed, your body's producing melatonin, right? Melatonin helps regulate fat metabolism as well too, and testosterone. So the big thing for a lot of people is you're going to bed, your last meal 8 o'clock, you're good to go. You're sleeping for 12 hours, you're sleeping for 8 hours, sleeping for 7 hours, whatever it is. When you get up in the morning, your body starts producing cortisol. Your body starts producing cortisol, fat hormone. You're consuming food throughout the day. You're exercising. Your activity levels are high. So it's great. It's not an issue as much, with the cortisol hormones. The problem is the people that are eating at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, that are going to bed at midnight or whatever, and getting up at like 7 in the morning for work. But they have that availability to stop eating at 8 p.m. They don't work in emergency service. They don't work in a job on demand where
So
they have
they
to work
could,
at nights.
yeah.
So they could.
So it's binging. It's we mentioned it, like you watch the hockey game. It's
Absolutely.
on till 11:30.
Yeah.
You eat till 11:30.
Yeah, or even afterwards. Hockey finishes, you're gonna have a
yeah.
meal after, and then
Yeah.
by the time you go to bed, it's 2 a.m. But you just ate till midnight. Problem is your body switches from melatonin and starts reverting back to cortisol, so your body starts producing fat. The problem is when you go to bed, your body's not metabolizing that fat.
Yeah.
Big thing with sleep as well too, right? Is that your body's metabolizing fat, it's repairing its tissues, repairing its fiber, your body's growing, right? None of those things are happening as effective or even at the same capacity if your body's producing cortisol.
Well, I guess it's got to work on making that switch first.
Absolutely, right? And the big thing is with that clock, it's that as soon as you throw your circadian rhythm off, it's going to take a little while for you to get it back on, but once it's on, it's on.
Yeah.
And if you stick to it, you're never going to have to worry about that. But the big thing is a lot of people, their clocks are completely off. And so it's messing with everything, with their training, with their sleep, with their work, their home lives, their everything.
Well, like you just mentioned, it affects a lot more than just your fat burning abilities, right?
Yeah.
Like it affects your sleep.
Absolutely.
And even if you get your 7 hours of sleep, it's not the same sleep, because the first 3 hours, I don't know, I'm not scientific, I'm just giving ideas here.
Yeah.
First 2 or 3 hours, let's say, are trying to turn this back into the melatonin you need. And while it's trying to do that, it's not doing what it's not giving you the sleep you need, the recuperative sleep you need, right? So you're getting your 7 hours, but it's not as nice as you think it is, right? So you get up in the morning and you start that circle all over again.
Absolutely.
But that cycle hasn't been 12-12. It's now been 18. you know.
Yeah.
Like, so it's off.
Well, your clock's off. The big thing is, and especially with circadian rhythm, the easiest way to do it, other than ensuring you've got proper sleep, ensuring that you're stop eating at a late point in time at night. So you're eating past 8 o'clock. You're eating first thing in the morning. So cortisol levels and melatonin levels are good. Another big thing in that, and people a lot of times don't realize, is consuming enough DHA. Good salmon, good fats, good fish. If you have to obtain it from fish oils, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you have the opportunity to get some good wild salmon, you're going to be able to get high DHA levels.
Yeah.
Another big thing as well too is getting that 3 to 5 minutes of sunlight in the morning, right? Just to help regulate your body and get you woken up and ready to go. Exactly. Yeah. A lot of people don't do that. Everything is so autonomous, right? Get up in the morning, grab a coffee, you shower, you get changed, pack your lunch, you leave for work, you get in your car. If it's early in the morning, it's winter like we have here in Ottawa, right? You wake up in the morning and it's it's even 7 a.m. to go to work, and leave at 7 o'clock, it's pitch black, right?
Yeah.
You get home from work at 4:30, it's pitch black, right? So the big thing is people never see the light of day.
Yeah.
So getting that 3 to 5 minutes of sunlight, whether that's on your drive, whether it's when you get to work, you go for a coffee shortly after you get there. The big thing is it's really going to help regulate everything for the
So
day.
as soon as it's out, if you can, go get it.
Absolutely.
Go get a couple minutes of it.
Yeah, people don't get enough sun, right? And that adds to everything. Vitamin D, seasonal affective disorder.
Yeah, it grows into multiple different spheres of your life, right?
Absolutely.
And it's just that 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If you don't have 3 to 5 minutes, you don't have a life.
Well, exactly. And then at that point, I think you're working harder, not smarter, right?
Yeah, that's it. Well,
it's all about efficiency, right?
Yeah, that's it. And your body's your tool, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you look in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter if you're a data entry clerk, you work in retail, you do what I do, climb trees.
Yeah.
Your body's your tool,
Yeah.
and if it doesn't work to its optimal, your physical body is not apart from your mental body. You know what I mean? So when you get to a certain point where you're fatigued, like I was overweight, and like I had trouble with everything, and now that I'm getting back into better shape, I have this huge appreciation for what my brain can do.
Absolutely.
And it's not even something I understood that I was going to get appreciation from when I started the process. I'm like, okay, I'm going to feel a little better, I'm going to have better breath, I'm going to be able. But the first thing I realized, especially like our last hockey game, which was the first game that I actually played after really starting this, my mind. My mind was above everything else. I was breathing hard like normally. I was a little bit faster, let's say, but my mental state was so much faster that it just made, like, yeah, sure, my legs hurt. My body can kind of separate it.
Your processing was better, though.
That's right. It feels like before, when my legs hurt, my brain went, shut down, legs hurt, concentrate on legs.
Yeah.
But now, my mind went, legs hurt, and the other part went, shut up, we're busy.
Yeah.
So I find like it just, there's a better tuning in there. And that's just from that. At that point, it was a week. A week of eating right and exercising daily. And obviously it was week 1, so I couldn't push myself to my absolute limit, or else I'd have a hard time in the days after.
100%. Yeah. Well, delayed onset muscle soreness sets
That's
in,
right.
24 to 48 hours out, your body's just in agony, right? Yeah.
So when we talk about that, we're going to talk a little bit about increment training.
Yep.
Given the fact that as I'm seeing results in training, I love the results I'm seeing, but how important is increment training?
The big thing is you want to focus on progressively overloading your training. If people step in and someone's like, you know what, benching 225 for 8 reps, and that at 8 reps, I'm exhausted, I could probably push 1 or 2 more reps to failure. Next week, I'm going to do 255. I'm still going to push for 8 reps. The issue is going to be is if you're jumping up, 30 to 40 pounds every week, if you're ready for it, great. But if you're doing 225 and you want to keep to 8 to 10 reps and you're pushing at like 7 reps, 6 reps, like under that rep range, and you up the weight again, you're going to notice the reps are going to start dropping. Mm-hmm. You're going to injure yourself because you're pushing your body way too hard. Your body's not ready to jump up yet. Your body's not ready to overload.
You might suffer with your posture too.
Exactly, right? So the big thing is that you want to make sure that for that training, right, you're increasing by 5 or 10%. Whatever that number is that works for you, but that number is 5 or 10% in weight, 5 or 10% increase in reps. So if you're increasing by 1 extra rep, 2 extra reps, increasing by 10 extra pounds. But if your goal is to hit, for instance, 8 to 10 reps for an exercise and you're hitting 7 or 8 on every set, keep at the same weight for the next week. If that week you finish and you're at 9 or 10 reps on every single set for that weight, then sure, I would definitely say, go up a little bit in weight or increase the repetitions. When it comes to posture, especially, we talked about this before, especially with bench, a lot of people have an issue with upper cross syndrome, right? So tight pecs, they have issues, tight traps. The problem is that, they start walking hunched over. Yeah. So they've got really bad spinal curvature, they're having issues with their posture, they're having back pain, We've seen it all the time before. People get out of their car after a 2-hour drive, and they're literally walking like they've just ridden a crotch rocket.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. And that, I think a lot of that can be attributed to aesthetics, aesthetic working out. Like if you want to put that term to it, which is working out with. I feel it's not working out with a long-term goal in mind.
Yeah.
A lot of research that I've done starting this. One thing I've noticed is a lot of the pro bodybuilders say that in the first year, that's where you get your best gains, your best muscle tone and setting.
Absolutely.
Even though you got the fat, it doesn't matter. That's where you get your best toning.
Yeah.
So that being said, like a lot of guys, when they start out, guys and girls, when they start out, they're aiming at aesthetics and aesthetically pleasing things. But when you do that, you need to work the whole body, because when you do that, like I said, it's a lot more than, okay, your arms are going to look great and stuff like that, but your posture suffers.
Yeah.
When your posture suffers, well then, if it's like practicing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
You can practice it if you want, but if you're practicing the wrong thing, it's not going to get any better.
No.
But that being said, with your posture, it's a lot more dangerous. So,
100%.
when you're looking at sets and reps, like what would you suggest for a beginner to look at sets, reps, and stuff like that?
Big thing is, you want to look more towards functional hypertrophy.
Okay.
So you're looking sort of that 8 to 12 rep range.
Okay.
Easiest way to do that for most people, focus on that. At that point, you're looking for some lean muscle building a little bit, but a little bit of strength as well too involved in it.
Okay.
Versus somebody who's going to be looking at that rep range for relative strength, 1 to 5, or someone who's looking for strength endurance, looking for 12 to 25 reps.
Okay.
The issue when you get into that range is that someone looking at 12 to 25 reps, there's no problem with that. It's great for training and has a perfect place in training. But if you're looking at that, for instance, and your goal is, I want to put on a ton of strength, it's not going to line up right. But if you're looking at relative strength, 1 to 5 reps, and you're like, I want to just put on a ton of muscle, you're still not training for the right thing. You're looking at more strength gains at that point. So you keep at that 8 to 12 rep range, 3 to 4 sets, is probably good. The biggest thing is people overtrain. People will say, I'm going to train all 6 of these exercises. I'm going to do 4 sets for each exercise. And I'm going to superset them with another exercise. The problem is they're spending an hour and a half into a workout, because now you've got 6 different groups of exercises with 4 sets each one. You're doing 24 sets times 2 exercises, right? And for a lot of people, that's a lot, right?
Well, we're not saying it's not possible. We're just saying it's not for beginners.
No, exactly, right? And so the big thing is, it's like, someone goes on bodybuilding.com and they see,
here's the rocks workout.
Well, they're like Branch Warren, quad selling. This guy's got, I don't know the exact measurements, but this guy's able to, squat, 600 pounds, no problem. He's built like a brick shit house, like no issues, right? But the biggest thing is that someone looks at his leg workout and goes, oh, okay, so he does.
That's all I got to do.
5 sets of, he does 5 sets of leg press, 5 sets of leg extensions, 5 sets of leg curls, 5 sets of squats. The guy literally will do 50 sets. It's a 2.5 hour workout. The problem is like
his hypertrophy is completely different than yours.
Well, that's the one thing. Your average Joe, is not taking steroids. Their recovery rates are not as fast. They're not, have been training like this for 20, 30 plus years. Their bodies are not built for that, right? And so a lot of times they overtrain. Or you're not going to gain anything from it, because you're training so past the point of where you're going to gain any muscle from it or gain any results from it, and you're exhausting your nervous system. And so there's no real results happening. And so people wonder why they go to the gym, and they're like, I train 5 days a week. And I'm like, you train like that 5 days a week? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, how about we train like that over 3 weeks or 2 weeks, and then just divide those workouts in half? And they're like, so do the same volume of a week but into 2 or 3 weeks? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, huh. I never thought of it that way, right? It's
one thing to know about when you talk about muscle hypertrophy. A beginner, when you work out, you'll hit a certain muscle. Now, hypertrophy is in your system for 24 to 48 hours. So then, at the end of your 48 hours, you hit chest on Monday morning, while Wednesday morning, it's still affecting you a little bit. That's all good. When you get into those pro type of bodybuilders, their cycle could be 8 to 10 hours. So you hit chest in the morning, and at night you could do it again.
100%. The recovery rates are insane.
So it's not the same. So people have to, like you said, you hit the body every day, all day. Well, you're cycling, you're sucking nutrition from somewhere. You're not actually, you might lose bone density. You might, there's other things. That's why. It's kind of why I started this podcast, is starting for beginners, from people that I want to take this mentality of I don't know, so let's inform myself. So that's why you're here.
Thanks for having me. And the big thing as well too is people look at it's not even just people are using performance enhancing drugs, right? It's looking at a pro athlete. And someone, for instance, looks at Eric Carlson, they're like, oh, this is great. This is Eric Carlson's training program, or this is this is what Paul Correa did, or some of the guys that played 10 years ago. The big issue is look at those their programs and their training. They're pro athletes.
Yeah.
Their body's conditioned to withstand that much punishment, right?
Yeah.
They've built it over time. They're not going to have the same. Well, that's the thing. They're not going to have the same goals or the results that you're looking for, and you wouldn't want them. They're not. You're not transferable, right?
So if you want a chiseled chest and great abs, don't do a hockey training.
Yeah.
It's all legs.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of thing.
Well, it's built. Their training and their programming is built around having a specific goal. They're faster on ice. They're stronger on ice. They're more efficient. They're quicker stride. They're faster recovery rate. Quicker reactivity. Right. All that stuff is great, and sure, it has a lot of place in training for an average Joe or anybody else.
Yeah.
But 20% of it's transferable. 80% of it's not needed.
Yeah.
Like, does the average person need to do single leg box jumps?
Probably not.
No, right?
Yeah.
But can the average person deadlift or do a squat?
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's
How would a deadlift transfer into your real life? Well, anytime you go pick up groceries, your kids,
a box,
anything.
lift anything off the floor, anything at all.
Very transferable. Yeah. And when you look at that, like I know you have a wide range of clients. Yeah. Well, as we talk about beginners, we can also talk about the elderly as well, right?
Yeah.
The number one reason why elderly go into a home is because they can't get off the toilet by themselves.
Yeah.
When you think of something like that, that's something that's a half squat.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a deadlift, and it's these little trainings that right now we're young, and people that don't think about it. But as you get older, your philosophy completely changes, and don't you wish you would have done those squats when you were younger?
Oh, 100%. And the big thing is I've got a client actually, he's trained with me now for about 2 years on and off. So he actually have a family that I train with, and he's the father of the family. He's about 65 years old.
Okay.
And he's had a single knee operation. He's a candidate for a double knee for a second knee operation. And by 65, the big thing with those knee operations is that once you get your first one, you get your second one. I don't remember if you can get a second one, but there's issues and complications that come after that. They don't do another one, right? Yeah. So they try to hold you as long as possible. Yeah. So he came to me, and he was a golfer, an avid golfer, and as you know, you need your hips, you need your knees for golf, right?
Yeah.
And he was just finding, like he needed a cart to get around. Like if he was on the course and wanted to walk any much between holes, right, his knees were sore by the end of the day. He was in extreme pain the next day. He was popping tons of Advil and Tylenol just to try to combat the effects of it, right? So I sat down with him. We looked at his training, and when he first started out with me, his squat was like 10 degrees. Like he could not squat at all, right? It's just extreme pain. He couldn't get up. If he sat down on the floor, trying to get up afterwards, it was tough, right? And as it was, wasn't an much overweight guy. We just had to carry a little bit of extra weight in the front, but more or less, in decent shape. It was just the big thing is that he ran into issues where we started our training, and he explained before he looked at programming and stuff like that. There are people that would offer programs and stuff where they would have a 65-year-old go into a full squat right away, or they'd have a 65-year-old load weight up, right? And the problem with that is they're going to get injured.
You got to build up to it.
Exactly. So I'd start off with him. We do 10 degrees, we do 20 degrees, we use wall squats, have him squat against a wall, so he's got some support as well there too. By the time I was done with him, probably after about 8 months or so, he was doing a 90-degree squat, pretty close to it. Still using the wall, but down to 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And the big thing people don't realize is that it's not so much as trying to get them to respond to training and to the technique development as much as you and I would, someone who's in their 30s or someone who's in their 20s.
Yeah.
But you take somebody like that, and you have to definitely look at a longer-term plan for them.
Yeah.
But, by the time he finished, he noticed on the golf course, he wasn't as sore, he was able to get around a lot more, he's got a grandson, he was able to be a little more active with him as well too, and it definitely has a huge impact on your life.
Absolutely.
And even going into, like a retirement home or a nursing home, right? If a lot of people that don't do much after 60 or 65 when they retire, they start to progress. The problem is they're 75, they're ending up in a retirement home, they're 80 years old. Instead of moving them when they're 85 or 90, right?
Yeah.
Those extra 5 or 10 years can be saved by, making sure, you're training, you're following, decent eating plan and meal plan, but at the same time, making sure that your training's functional, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You're bending on your squats, you're not sitting in front of the TV every day, and just watching your soap operas all day long, right?
Well, it comes with the long-term mentality. That's why we talked a little bit about for beginners, because when we talk about posture and building this, I'm in it for the long term.
Yeah.
As my listeners know, I've yo-yoed a long term in my life, and that's it. So this makes me accountable. So anyways, that being said, that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at the long-term too. That's why I find that the posture is very important.
Yeah.
You know, information is very important. Well,
Absolutely.
applied information is even more important.
Yeah.
But when you look at that, you know, that's why the aesthetic things always gets to me. And every time I see somebody only work on aesthetics, and you can tell it's been going on for a while, you want to go stop them.
Yeah.
Even though he's further along than I am in the looks department, I feel like in the mentality department, it's like, dude, like, you're gonna do this for life. You're hurting yourself here.
Absolutely.
You really want to balance it out,
Yeah.
right? So it's very important, and that's why we kind of touched on when you get older too, because it'll bring into that, because you could be a bodybuilder in your 60s and be great.
Yeah.
You could be a bodybuilder in your 60s and have everything destroyed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
You see that way too often, right? Most guys by 40, 45, they're done with bodybuilding. They put their body through so many years of abuse, whether it's performance-enhancing drugs, you know, whether it's, you know, prepping for some big shows and stuff. So I've worked with a couple contest athletes as well too. But you know, you step on stage, you know, you got to cut weight. You know, you got to like
down to 2%.
wow, you're shredding down like to 3-4%, you know, 2% kind of thing, and you're starting off at like 12%. You're cutting weight, you know, 10 weeks out. You got to hold that weight. If you got multiple shows, you got to stay contest ready almost. The big thing is as well too, right? It's like your body fat is so low, it's messing with your hormones, especially for females. Big thing for females, they're missing their menstrual cycle. You know, they're having huge hormonal swings and mood changes. You know, guys, for instance, you know, it's depression, it's anxiety. You know, they're suicidal sometimes. It's just that people don't talk about that enough. You know, I've never competed myself, but I've had a number of friends that have, and I've had a number of clients that have. But they don't talk about it enough. They talk about, you know, the glitz and the glamour of on stage and stuff, but they don't talk about whatever goes on around and building through that, right? So yeah, absolutely, 100%. You know, it's when it comes to aesthetic, right? It's, you know, if you can last after 60, it's because you're implementing a lot of functional changes and things in with your training, right? But most of those guys can't last that long. It's just, it gets to a certain point where they hit a wall, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. You got to be careful with that. You know, it's a lifetime process. It's
100%.
That's why for us, it's a holistic look at it.
Yeah.
Right. The mental goes a lot with it, and like I said at the beginning, that's one of the first things I feel that clarifies this.
Yeah.
As you start getting in better shape, is that. So I feel it's very important that, you know, you get your knowledge, you read up, you get your thirst for knowledge, keep growing as you go. It can't just be about the aesthetics, and it can't just be about the stage or the, you know, it has to be about you.
Absolutely.
Basically, and for you, for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Right. So that being said, the other more questions I have for you is, what's your favorite style of training? Because I know you lean a lot towards the boot camp.
Yeah.
So like, how does that benefit? How would that benefit a beginner, or even an elite athlete, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's different ways to look at it. Like a lot of times people come to me and they're like, you know, this is my budget, this is what I have to work with, right? And a lot of times every trainer, you know, prefers to work with a client that, you know, has a results-oriented, driven mindset where they're like, I don't care what it costs. And I would love it if you came to me and you're like, hey man, I don't care what it costs. I want to train with you as much as it takes because I want to look like this in 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, we will literally work to have you look exactly like that in 6 months, or as close to it as possible, as much as we can. But, you know, if you come to me and you're like, I'll spend $5,000 or $10,000 in 6 months and I don't care. Sure, no problem. I'm not going to have an issue with that, right? We'll do whatever it takes, right? But for a lot of people, it's tough, right?
It's both. It's both. You have a time
Absolutely.
restraint and a money restraint.
Right, exactly. So people come to me and they're like, you know what, this is my budget, but I want to look like this. And I'm like, okay, no problem. Like, we'll get you there. I'm like, it'll take a little bit of time, but we'll figure something out. So we'll put together a package from a plan, right? You know, if we're looking at, you know, 6 months out, but we're going to semi-private, a little bit cheaper, you're training with 2-3 people, but at the same time, you're working on a different program. I'm spending, you know, 33% of my time with you if there's 3 people. I'm spending 50% of my time with you if there's 2 people, right? So it's still a very much, not a one-on-one, but a very close environment in terms of, like, you know, receiving advice and you know, coaching on the training as we go.
Yeah.
When it comes to one-on-one, you know, it's a little bit more expensive, but the big thing is that's where people are going to notice a bigger difference, right? With one-on-one, spend that full 60 minutes with you, ensuring everything is great, hard-hitting workout. And then boot camps come along, right? Because they're, you know, $15, $20 a class. They're a lot more affordable. You're in a larger environment. But a lot of people like that, right? You get to make some friends. There's a lot of camaraderie as well, too. A lot of competitiveness between people as well. And you get to pair up with people that are similar as well, too. You know, find out stuff that works. You know, if you're working on exercise, it's something that I don't see. Sorry. You know, someone in your group, I've maybe provided them 3 or 4 cues along the way in the last 2 weeks. They turn around, they provide the same cues to the same person as well too. The great thing is that then by the end of it, I come over and I'm like, oh, that's great, looks perfect, or there's a small little change we have to correct there, but they've already received help from somebody else in the class as well, which is great. So there's a lot of benefits as well there too.
And it's self-taught, because 100%. As much as like you said, someone would love to come and say, you know what, I want to work with you forever. This is my yearly budget. Let's do this. That's nice, but a lot of people. Realistic. No, most people want to work out with you till they get the knowledge that they need to or not need 3 kids.
And they got like a huge household to feed and everything, right? And they don't have that budget, right? Someone who's single comes to me, who's 30 years old, who works a government job, making 6 figures. And it's just him to provide for, or just her to provide for, they don't have an issue, right? They can come to me and set aside the money. Someone who comes to me who's got 3 kids, whose maybe husband is on leave or something, or our wife's on leave, and they're only one big income coming in, they're not going to have a ton of disposable cash, right? So the big thing is just finding that balance. I've got a lot of clients that come to me for 2 one-on-ones a week and 1 boot camp class a week. Come to me for 2 semi-privates and a boot camp. You just find that balance, right? And boot camp's great for training. It's high intensity interval, so fat loss, right? Versus if that's your goal, that's great. But maybe someone wants to come to do strongman stuff and they want to focus on that for the boot camp as well too, right? So I do strongman boot camps as well. Most of that is centered around like prowlers, like sled drags, farmers walks, a lot of stuff you see in the strongman competitions and stuff you see on TV. I don't use a lot of like the Atlas stones and everything, because there's definitely a risk of injury surrounded that if you're not taught proper form technique of lifting it.
On top of if you drop it.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, it's easy way. And there's an easy way to damage a floor, break a foot, right, or throw a back out, right? So it all depends on where your training is at, what your goals are looking for. But there's definitely a place in all 3, semi-private, one-on-one, or even in boot camp or strongman training for everybody in their training, right? It definitely fit in some way, whether it's building your endurance, improving your muscular endurance, improving your recovery, right? There's definitely a place of it for all of it.
And can you? Because I know there's a lot of isolation workouts when you go to the gym and stuff like that, and we talked a little bit about earlier. The equipment is a little more simple when you go to a boot camp style gym, right? What's the benefits of that?
So the upside is, in the summertime it's perfect. It's outside. I've got my truck. I load up all the equipment in my truck. I'll go to school or I'll go outside, and I rent a field, whatever, and I'll have a bunch of friends or people come out. I know we train. You know what I mean? Like you're able to bring a tire, some ropes, some hula hoops, whatever it is, right? For people to do like lateral drills and stuff, some cones, right? You don't need a lot of stuff. I don't fill my entire box of equipment, but I'll bring it out enough I can bring back in 4 little trips, right? With everything. And the great side to that is that you don't need a lot of stuff to have outside. It's great for a lot of other trainers to supplement income as well too, because if you got to have $200 worth of equipment to run a boot camp, you got 10 people and they charge, let's say, $15 a pop. In 2 boot camps, you've already made back your entire investment and some extra cash as well, right? And even still, you can do it for $100, right? You don't need a lot, but a lot of people don't realize that. You can do sprint drills, you can do a lot of stuff outside, lateral stuff. You can do stuff with like someone dropping down onto their stomach and standing up really quickly and sprinting up a hill. You can use hills to your advantage, right?
And it seems to be more.
It's outside. You're getting sunlight and everything too, right?
And it seems to be a little more motions that are going to be more transferable to
100%, and so it works for a lot of people. It's great. People are outside, they're active. It transfers in the wintertime when you're indoors as well too. But I mean, I think the big thing when it comes to that is that with boot camp, it's not as expensive. So for a lot of people, it's easier on the budget, but as well too, it's definitely a different type of training, but I mean, you can do it almost anywhere, right, as long as you have the space. I gotta say, for me, when I look at the boot camp, the only thing I have zero interest in is flipping the tire. And it's not because I can't flip the tire, it's because I have 13 trucks back here that I work on a regular basis. So going to pay to flip a tire and it's just not so, or hitting a sledge with a tire. Understand. Next time I have a boot camp, I'll call you up and have you drop the tires
That's right. I'll drop the tires off. And if you want to pound the tire with the sledge, I got some wood to chop. It's the same motion. There's profit in that. But that but I do appreciate the way.
Here you go, 613 Fitness clients. The next boot camp is out here at Carlsbad Springs.
That's right. We're splitting wood. I do appreciate the style, because obviously with doing there's a lot I don't do, but with doing that kind of thing for her, obviously it's transferable to me more than most. But I know what the proper posture is, because the things you can do with heavy stuff around what I do here, that if you don't have the proper posture, either get a piece of equipment or go home, because I don't want to call the doctor. You know what I mean? Like you have to be very careful. So by being very transferable to that, it's a great style of workout for
Yeah.
sure. And it gets people out of their elements a little bit too, right?
Absolutely. A lot of times, like, I'll use that, I train a lift on a tire flip,
Yeah.
A lot of people that deadlift, they understand, wider stance, you want to
Mhm.
get under it. Somebody who doesn't do any deadlift, somebody who's never lifted a tire, a lot of times, they try to lift it and lean forward with it.
Yeah.
The problem is they're going to injure their back.
Yeah.
So the big thing is when you lift that, you want to have, underhand, underneath the tire in the front. You want to make sure that your legs, are shoulder width or wider than shoulder width, like it's almost a sumo
Yeah.
squat
Yeah.
style or sumo deadlift.
Yeah, because you can't do a front deadlift
Exactly.
'cause,
And when you lift it, you want to lift with your knees, lift with your legs, right? So nice tall chest,
Yeah.
nice tall posture, right? You're not leaning forward. And then when you're lifting, you're transferring that weight through the tire to flip it over.
Yeah.
You're not stopping halfway and using your arms to push the rest of it.
Yeah, you keep pushing. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's functional, right? A lot of people
Yeah.
learn that, and then once that's transferred, it makes a lot of their lifts become better because they're
Yeah.
more aware of it as well too.
Well, even like here, like you can see just an example of transferring that motion.
Yeah.
We have winters, you get stuck.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you get your car out? That exact motion.
Yeah.
So very transferable. So that's how it works, right?
Some of us are lucky we have 4-wheel drive, but yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But you get that one stuck. That's a hell of a push.
That's a hell of a one. I've done it a couple times. 4-wheel low and doesn't come out.
No, yeah. So when we track because with a boot camp, it's a lot harder to track your workouts and your progress than it is if you go to a conventional gym and you can actually mark the weights and the reps and stuff like that. So how important, first of all, do you think tracking is?
I mean, depends. Like for boot camps, you're not going to track the weights. You might remember, like, oh, you know what, I did this weight last week, or like, you'll find a weight. You're like, oh, I did 20 pounds last week, or in the last couple weeks I have. So you'll try 25. 25 so you go up to 30. Big thing is people are doing boot camps, for instance, more for fat loss.
Okay.
So at the same time, like if you're training at a high intensity to where you're pushing yourself to exhaustion, you're training in that 80 to 90% rep range, pushing through 90 to 100, to the point where you're fatigued almost on every set, and then pushing through the next one. When you're training like that, you'll find the weights. You'll start off with a 20 pound. You're like, oh, this is not 100%. Like I'm pushing at 60. I'll go up to 25. I'll go up to 30. You'll remember that when
so
you're
it's
tracking.
Self-tracking.
Exactly. Or we'll set it up so for instance, I set up my boot camps where I line up the weights for people. So I'm like, hey, most gentlemen will use probably 30 pounds for this exercise. Some will use 40 or 35, for instance. Some will use probably 25. But then I'll put a weight out for like females that that's a little bit lighter, for instance, but they have the availability to use the weights for the gentlemen if they want to as well too. Yeah. So really setting it out that kind of like average weight. When it comes to like one-on-ones and group training and stuff, I use a software, so I actually
so you keep track.
I do. So I write out everything. So like they'll have the exercise, breaks down into the exercise. They have the reps, and then they have the weight, and then it has a breakdown for all the sets across.
Okay.
It tells them how long the program essentially is, if it's followed with exact rest periods and exact concentric and eccentric lift and lowers on your exercise. So for instance, for most people who don't know what concentric and eccentric work is, if I have an exercise, let's say we're doing bench press, and it's 4-0-1-0. So you look at it and you're like, okay, so I don't know what that is. 4 seconds down, no pause, 1 second explode up. Okay. So it takes you 5 seconds to do the exercise for one rep. So if you're doing 10 reps, it's 50 seconds per exercise. And then if you rest after 60 seconds, you have 110 seconds rest. So we average that out. We'll look, okay, that's the first set. 110 times 4, 440 seconds. You divide that by 60, gives you how long it takes in minutes.
Okay.
You'll remember that's roughly how long it takes for that specific exercise with the rest and everything. Okay. And then it gets averaged out throughout the program.
Yeah.
The big thing is people look at that and understanding concentric and eccentric reps, or holds, like lifts and lowers with a 1 second pause, whatever that is. They're going to learn a lot more that it's going to help benefit their training.
Okay.
It's going to help, build, like people a lot of times will cheat, so they'll use momentum.
Yeah.
You ever see a guy when he benches, bounce it off his chest?
Bounce, yeah.
So the problem with that is they're not actually fully working through the movement.
No, yeah.
If I have you do, if I have you do 3 seconds down, 1 pause, explode up.
Yeah.
Where's your momentum after you pause?
None.
You have no momentum.
None.
So you're purely relying on strength. You're purely relying on your form and your technique as well too.
Yeah.
It's going to eliminate injuries as well too.
And it's all with the incremental,
absolutely.
right? Like you might not look as flashy next to the other guy doing the bench presses, but that's not what your focus is.
Nope.
Right? So that's why it's very important when you look at that.
Absolutely. So when I do my programming, I usually do 3 to 4 weeks out. If they're with me 2 or 3 times a week, then we'll do a different workout for every day. And then we'll program it either upper or lower, we'll program it on a body part, we'll program it on something specific to them if they're an athlete, what they're looking for.
Yeah.
But the big thing is that they're able to track for those 3 or 4 weeks. I'll keep the programs. And then once they finish tracking for those 3 or 4 weeks, goes into my files and my archives, and I'm able to keep it as well too. For instance, if someone comes back and goes, hey, like, when I was doing that last time, do you remember what my weight was? If I don't remember by heart, a lot of times I'll remember sometimes roughly what they were doing, but I can refer back to that program. A big thing for them as well too is it helps me when we're doing our next phase of programming, and I start them off and I'm like, hey, I'm going to switch it up and do this exercise. What did they start with for weight? It helps me start off in terms of like a starting weight, for instance, or ensuring that, if they had a really big struggle with an incline bench, I'm not going to switch them off on dumbbells and start doing the barbell work, or for instance, or making it harder, right? I'm going to start looking at either modify it or looking for a different progression.
That being said, when you modify, do you have, like, let's say somebody is doing this on their own, they found a program they like, they follow it, they should vary it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the cycle? What do you think? Like a couple months, 3 months? When do you think?
So it all really depends. Like if you're following a specific program that lasts for, it's like 3 workouts, for instance, on this program, or if you're looking for different workouts and you've got 3 workouts you're running through the week, I always say 3 to 4 weeks is good. With my clients, sometimes what I'll do is like they'll run for 4 weeks and like there's a break period in between. So they'll take a break in between. So really, it took 5 weeks. Okay, that's fine. If it's halfway through, I might add an extra week on if I'm not happy with where their progress is at, because I want them to be able to go up a little bit more in weight, increase their reps, technique, we'll nail down technique a little bit better, because everything adds up, right? That specific phase of programming that we're doing is preparing you for the next phase. If you haven't properly fulfilled that phase of your programming, you're not ready for the next phase of programming. So I always tell clients, you never want to go more than 6 weeks. But if you're training that workout ends up being every week, that workout that you do, I would say 3 to 4 weeks maximum. After 4 weeks, change it up. And unless you're like modifying and switching exercises out. If you're doing like German volume training, for instance, you want to do it for 3 or 4 weeks max. So 10 sets of 10 reps, for instance.
Stay on that.
No, and the big thing is because you're just going to kill yourself. You're going to be exhausted, right? You're not training different types of training in there as well. You want to switch it up, right? So 4 weeks is a good rule of thumb, but if you're looking at like a progression of like a different exercise or progression to like a different modification of it or variation of it, you could probably do a program for 2 or 3 months, but you want to make sure that if you're doing flat bench, for instance, for one of the exercises, the next one that you're doing, if it's a similar program, the next one is going to be incline. You're going to want to do it with more pause in between. So like let's say you did flat bench, but your flat bench was 3 seconds down, no pause, 1 up, right? Now you're doing flat bench, but you're doing 2 seconds down, 1 pause, 2 up. So the big thing is that there's no momentum, there's no power output.
Either way.
But there is power output, but it's not like a powerful movement. It's like 1, 2, right? So you're pushing through it slowly, but you're switching up the muscle fibers and you're switching up the system that you're training in that case, right? So you're a little more slow twitch, right?
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, well, there's so much different things to try.
I could literally sit down with you and provide one program to you, and if I really wanted to, we could probably schedule you out for the next 3 or 4 months with the same program, and just switch up the training principles, switch up the exercise that it's supersetted with, and everything, and still run the same exercise. It's just a completely different training protocol.
Yeah, because you have, like I'm actually right in the middle of having to switch my cycle of when I start what. Because right now I've been starting the same exercise, like when I do legs, I start with the same thing all the time.
Absolutely.
It's been about a month, right? So now I want to start switching it up where I'm still doing the same exercises, because here's my thoughts on this. And you're the pro, so you let me know. I'm trying to do this for 8 weeks. I have my set exercises that are pretty much complete, because I work out 7 days a week, so I separate into days. So, and there's generally separated into 4 days, and then they cycle back through. So when I do my 4 days, I have my set exercises. They target pretty much everything. So I'm not lacking on anything, but what I want to do is, now I'm the end of month 1, I want to keep doing the same exercises, but change my sequence. I'm going to do that for a month. After I change my sequence for the second month, then I'm going to go into a little more, I'm going to switch it up with more dumbbells and more barbells instead of less machines, because I'm still new at this and stuff like that. So that's my idea about that. So what do you think about a program like that? Does that sound like something that makes sense for
it works. Everybody, it's different. I mean, for you, like, that probably work. There'd be no issue with that whatsoever. The big thing is you want to make sure. I always say, for instance, like, let's say we stick to like some functional hypertrophy, right? If you're doing functional hypertrophy for 1 month, somebody might benefit a lot more from doing functional hypertrophy 1 month, doing relative strength the next month, and progressing through and doing different training principles. So 1 to 5 reps versus 8 to 12 reps versus 6 to 8 versus 12 to 25, right? Switching those up along the way a lot of times makes a big difference. The big thing is you don't want your body to plateau. So
No,
for
that's
you,
right.
like that works, right? That'll probably won't be an issue there. But if you're noticing, like for instance, like the first month was great. You know, let's say you put on like 5 pounds of muscle and you lost 10 pounds of fat after the first month. That's great. Like, I mean, those are not necessarily the same goals that everybody else is going to have. Because some people are going to be hard gainers. Some people are going to have an issue different on your body type. It's a mesomorph, it's an ectomorph, it's an endomorph. Someone who puts on fat a lot easier.
We'll go through that a bit too.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure what I am.
Okay.
So we'll go through that. I think I know what I am, but how about we go through them?
Yeah. So you have an endomorph, so somebody who puts on fat easily.
Okay.
So somebody, for instance, that, you know, if their diet is 5,000 calories a day, you know, they're eating super high carb and stuff, somebody like that, for instance, is not going to be able to lose the weight if they're training and they're having, you know, their caloric output or input, is a lot higher than their output.
Okay.
So the problem is they're consistently having a caloric expenditure, right, or overload. So the problem is they're gonna have a hard time losing weight.
But even that body type.
That body type right there, though.
Yeah.
Depending on what they're consuming, they have an easier time putting on fat.
Okay.
Their muscles, like the input, the muscle they're gaining on it is not too bad, but they're not going to be anywhere from what someone who's like a mesomorph is. Mesomorph, you're halfway in between.
Okay.
So mesomorph, you put on fat easily, but you also put on muscle easily.
Okay,
or you have an easier time putting both of them on.
Okay,
so depending on what you
mesomorph.
consume, depending on how you train, you can mitigate the amount of fat put on, and you can actually improve the amount of muscle put on, but you have the best chance of being able to do both in that sense because of your body type, right?
Yeah,
so
it's a good and a bad.
Exactly, right?
It's double-edged
just
sword.
Exactly, right? It's
I
like
felt
you
that
still got to
sword.
watch a little bit of how you consume, like how you eat, depending on what you do. But
Hence the yo-yoing.
exactly, but it's not
That's
as bad
so
as the
crazy.
endomorph, for instance, who is just like, you know, like I can have a whole weekend binging on pizza and everything, and then next week go back and be good Monday to Friday. Maybe they put on 5 pounds over the weekend.
Yeah.
With you, for instance, you're training hard and stuff like that, you know, working out and stuff along the way. If your training is great, you might not gain anything, but you also might gain a pound or two. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
Then you have the other end of the spectrum, which is the ectomorph. There you got your hard gainer. You got your guy, I don't know, you're a Marvel fan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so remember Captain America?
Yeah.
And how small was he in the first movie
Yeah.
when, he was tiny, right?
Yeah.
So somebody like that, for instance, like he's an ectomorph. No matter what you do, no matter how you train him, no matter how much food you put in him, he's going to have the hardest time in the world gaining weight. He might gain a pound or two of muscle, but it's over a month or two.
Yeah.
And if you think about how hard he's training, how well he's eating, how much rest he's getting, and all those principles in place, someone like yourself, he may have gained 1 or 2 pounds in like 2 months, you're going to gain 6.
Yeah.
You're going to gain 4, right?
Yeah.
So your results are going to be 2 or 3 times better than him, right?
Yeah.
So depending on how your body is, you definitely do need to adapt your training to a specific body type, but at the same time, like it can be differently trained depending on how it is. Like someone who's a mesomorph and someone who's an endomorph could definitely benefit from the same type of training, but I would never program someone necessarily who's an endomorph whose goal is fat loss, for instance, that's the case, and they want to lose 40 pounds with the same training principles as somebody who's an ectomorph, who's someone who's a hard gainer who wants to put on 5 pounds of muscle.
Yeah, that can't. Yeah.
No, like I've got a couple of clients come to me, right, and it's like, you know, I've been training, you know, pretty hard for a year by myself, and I put on 2 pounds of muscle. I'm like, if that's your goal, that's great. But if your goal is to put on 10 pounds of muscle, it's not going to work, right? So they come to me and they see me, and in 6 months we put on 11 pounds of muscle, we put on 10 pounds of muscle. It's once you change up that training principle and you change everything up along the way, and then the way they're training, you change up, you know, their protocols and everything. It makes a bigger difference, but it's something they're not aware of because they've just gone on and found a bodybuilding.com program.
Yeah, well,
they
that's
found
it.
something just turned out
One
on paper
for
and
all,
well.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And we're not one for all.
No.
I think I can't even put in into either of them because I gain weight quickly, easily. I lose weight quickly, easily.
Yeah.
I gain muscle quickly and easily.
Yeah.
But that being said, like you said, like if I have a cheat day, a full cheat day, that could be 6 pounds the next day or by the Monday.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So that's why you have to have other scales than the scale as well, right?
Absolutely. And that's why a lot of times what I do with clients is, you know, I use the scale measurement just as a benchmark for them, just so they can kind of see where they're at and where they've lost. But if you step on the scale and you lost 10 pounds of fat and you gain 8 pounds of muscle, and you're going to come to me and you're going to be like, I look
Just 2
great,
pounds,
but
really?
I've only lost 2 pounds.
Yeah.
What's going on, right? The biggest thing you look at is measurements. We sit down and I measure you, and I'm like, Eric, guess what? And you're like, what? You're like, well, my hips were, I don't know, let's say, for example, a ballpark. Let's say my hips were 80 inches. Okay. Or 60 inches. And I came to you, and I had a 60-inch hips. By the time I finished, my hips were 52. You lost 8 inches off there. For you, maybe it's waist, right? You're like, oh, you know, I came in and I was a 40-inch waist. And by the time we finished, I was a 34. I lost 6 inches off my waist. That number is going to matter to you more than 20 pounds does. Because if you come to me and you're like, like we worked out hard for 7 months and all I lost was 20 pounds, and I'm like, yeah, but you lost 6 inches off your waist.
Yeah,
you went down
important.
3 pant sizes.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah, it's all relative, right? Like I always encourage people to write the little wins down.
Absolutely.
Because you're gonna have little wins along the way,
Absolutely.
and they're not gonna be the little wins you're gonna find in the textbook or on the scale. Yeah. Just for example, this week I had a little win.
Yeah.
I lost so much butt fat, I got to move my seat up on my car.
That's awesome. That's good.
I'm just sitting there going, this is me as a steering wheel a little further than it used to be. Like that's one little win. I'm going to write that down so that when, because of the yo-yoing, I always want to keep my focus in mind. And those are all little focuses. Like they're very tiny, minuscule little things for certain people. And you're not even going to say them out loud, but write them down for yourself. So you go, oh yeah, I remember that day 100%. When I put my belt on and it was over my belly, not under my belly. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like just kind of stuff like that. I find it's more important. And I take a picture every week. Yeah. Same spot, same position. Yeah. And this way you just see it. You see the shape. And I'd like to one day do one of those cartoon things where you have all your pictures and so you can just see it melt and transform as you go. But thank God I did that, because the first week I lost 9.5 pounds. Felt great. Oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah. Second week I'm on fire. I'm working out. I'm doing my nutrition is on peak, and I didn't move, not 1 pound. Yeah. But like I mentioned earlier, I was doing creatine uploading. Yep. So that was that stage. I was at that stage. Yeah. So more water retention, drinking lots of water. Yeah. And at that stage, I don't know what my muscles are doing. Yeah. I can see myself getting stronger, but if I relied only on that scale, that's a full 7 days without moving, I would have been devastated. Yeah.
And a lot of people, that's enough to deter them from continuing a program or continuing to do any physical activity.
And if I didn't take that picture for that second week and then that third week was 0.5 pounds. Yeah. So I would have been again, I would have been devastated. Yeah. But then I looked at the pictures and it's like, whoa, there's a big difference here. Oh, yeah. So setting your goals is huge. Writing them down.
Yeah, and then those smart goal setting, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time time consuming, right? It's time specific.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because you have to. Because if you don't have those things, you're just going to wander around in the gym. Yeah. And if you have a well written out goal that's specific and attainable, it's going to give you another little win to want to keep moving past.
Absolutely.
Right. If your goal is to win Olympia in June. Yeah. You're going to be very disappointed in June. Yeah. Like, you're in great shape, and you will be very disappointed in June, let alone me if that's my goal. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, it's small, attainable goals.
The big thing for people is they start off and they're like, a lot of people have that the issue is not finding a goal that's specific and a goal that is has a time tied to it, right? Yeah. They say, I want to lose 60 pounds in 6 months. And I'm like, okay, so you've told me that you have a goal. Your goal is provided a metric towards it, so 60 pounds, and you want to lose it in 6 months. Great. But you haven't told me at all how you plan on achieving that goal. Yeah. Or what you plan on doing in between.
Or what you're willing to sacrifice.
Exactly, right? And so people sit down, they're like, oh, I never thought about it that way. Jeez. Because the problem is that's once they actually deal with it and they start working at it, and they're like, oh, I didn't lose it in 6 months. No. I'm done, that's it. Yeah, well, what did you put in place? Like, what were your parameters? Yeah. What were you working with? I was eating till 11 o'clock every night, and
it's not a Rocky
throughout the day, and I'd skip a workout here and there, and I'm like, oh, okay. So your 60 pounds in 6 months was not giving it, everything stuck to the plan, following along the way, right? Yeah, so the biggest problem is like, I always say it, I always talk about it. Your specific is your bun on your hamburger. Yeah, okay. And your time is your condiments. Okay. Do you want to eat a hamburger if you were a meat eater without a burger in between, without a patty? Yeah. No, it's boring, right? There's nothing to it. You want your AAA Angus beef in between there, right? And that beef right there, that's all you're planning along the way and how you actually plan to achieve those goals.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Just like the other side, right? It's like if you were like, I want to do all of this for my training, but I have no goal and I have no time tied to it, it's going to get to a certain point where you're like, Shane, I've already had 10 burgers. I'm not full because I've been eating patties all day, and it's boring. Yeah. Can I have like some condiments or can I have something with it? You know what I mean? Like you want to have something else tied to it. That's like right. You make a great burger, but I mean, if there's nothing else with it, then it's.
And like I said, it's all that. That's why I find it so important to write those little wins. Yeah. Because those are the ones you forget so easily.
Absolutely.
And even if you yo-yo back again, like I did, as you put the weight back on, you don't even notice these things.
No.
It's only as they come back off that you notice these things. That's why it's so
Absolutely.
important to write them down.
Yeah.
Because you might be able to see them
Yeah.
and notice them and go, oh, wait. My number 26 is about to happen. Oh, no. Okay, wait, turn this around.
Yeah.
You got to stay in this. You know what I mean? So that's why I find it's very important. And with the timeline, because everybody overestimates what they can do in a year and underestimates what they can do in 10.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's why by having short, middle, and long-term goals, you can actually measure yourself. Because goals, to me, goals are nothing but a measuring board.
Absolutely.
When you set up your goals, whether you reach your goal in 3 months or not, when you reach there, it's just like you said, okay, I'm a little under, then you get to analyze.
Yeah.
Okay, well then I did this right, oh, I lacked a little bit on this, yeah, I had a couple too much of this. Okay, so I'll reevaluate.
Yeah.
So a goal is a measure. It's your ruler. It's just to see where you are on your scale.
Absolutely.
So you don't need to get down on yourself. You just need to look at that scale and go, okay, I'm here at this point, that's perfect. I didn't hit my goal, but, next time.
Yeah.
So it's just to measure yourself. I did do, okay, let's say you want $1 million.
Yeah.
I say I can't give you $1 million, man. I can give you $980,000. Are you pissed at me?
No.
Well, if your goal is 100%,
If my goal is $1 million, yes. Realistically, I'm not pissed at you. Just give me $980,000. But
a long way along your goal.
But
So-
if it's realistic, of course I am.
So,
My goal
yeah.
is to make sure I hit 100% of that. If I'm, I want to.
But if you hit 98% of that, and your time's not up,
Yeah.
you have enough.
100%.
Then that's the mentality you got to put into this.
Absolutely.
I didn't hit my 100%. I hit 95. So you hit $980,000, and you're pissed.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit you. You know what I mean? So when you look at that, it's all perspective.
Yeah.
When you put that into perspective that way, don't be mad at your 98% of your goal.
No.
Just refocus. That's
Absolutely.
all.
And a lot of people, the biggest thing, and I didn't touch on it before, is it realistic?
Yeah.
Someone like myself, I used to be definitely an ectomorph. I was a hard gainer, but I've kind of floated more towards that in between like a mesomorph now. So I have an easier time putting on muscle, but if I'm not careful, like there could be a little bit of fat added as well too.
Mm.
So the big thing I didn't touch on is your goal realistic? Someone walks into me and I'm just like, what's my goal? If my goal is unrealistic, I'm going to tell you I want to put on 40 pounds of muscle in 3 months.
Steroids.
Yeah. How unrealistic is that, right?
Yeah.
But if I came to you and
Without
I said,
dying?
yeah, and I came to you and I said, I want to put on 40 pounds of muscle in 2 years, and I want to put on 5 pounds of muscle in the first 3 months, and then I want to put on 10 pounds of muscle in the next 10 months after that.
Yeah.
Does that sound realistic to you?
It's realistic, attainable, and even if it's not, at least it's
also
something
measurable.
to drive towards.
Because if I'm saying 40 pounds in 2 years, and the first year and a half I put on 10 pounds, how am I going to put on 30 pounds in 6 months of muscle?
Yeah, so then
But
you
if you break it
reevaluate.
down and it's 5 pounds in 6 months,
Mhm,
well, I can break it down even further. I want to put on a pound of muscle every month.
Your micro wins.
Exactly.
Micro
right?
wins, yeah.
Absolutely.
Micro wins get you the long-term view, right? Because every morning when I wake up,
Yeah.
I've been working out, I've been doing this program, and I've been doing what we're doing here for a little over a month. So far, every day I've woken up, no six-pack.
Yeah.
Every day. So it's patience that has to come along with it, right?
Absolutely.
So hence the realistic goal.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they should be there and I should see them.
Absolutely.
But
You've worked hard enough.
that's
You
right.
deserve
But
it.
they
100%.
hurt. What the hell?
Yeah.
But knowing this from doing this before, I know how long it's going to take me approximately.
Yeah.
So I'm realistic about it. But by being realistic about it, that means when I wake up and I do look in the mirror and the abs aren't there yet, I'm not devastated either.
No, of course not.
I'm going, okay, well, I really have to take a look at my last week's picture to see how this looks, because it's daily.
Absolutely.
If you lose 1/16 of an inch around your entire body daily, it doesn't show.
No.
Now.
No, but in 3 months it will.
In 3 months?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all these little increments that people have to pay attention to. That's why I say write the little wins. Oh my God, I can tie my shoe in front of me, not beside me.
Yeah.
That's a
Exactly.
win.
Yeah. I can pick up my kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I decided that was enough for me with my as fat as I got, I think the next game, if I would have eaten another bad week of bad food, I think I would have had to needed somebody to tie my skates.
Yeah.
I needed to hold my breath, dive in there, get 2 or 3 loops up, come back up for another breath, get back in there. So it's all these little wins.
Yeah.
I can tie my skates. I don't have
I can walk up the stairs and not be out of breath.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
It's all these.
You got kids, young kids,
I got
right?
kids.
The last thing you want is they see their dad like that, and it's.
I come home, they're happy to see me.
Absolutely.
I bend over, my knee cracks.
Yeah.
Every time. Not anymore.
Yeah.
It's only been a month.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a win for me.
Oh, 100%.
Because every time I bend over to give him a hug, crack, there goes the knee. Crack, there goes the knee. Oh my God, crack, there goes the knee. And then I go to hockey, and the knee's a little sore. What the hell?
Yeah.
And a week of that, a month of conscious eating and focus,
Yeah.
and no problem now.
Biggest thing I always tell people as well too, and especially people starting out can take this from it, and a lot of people don't realize, is that if you're sitting in front of the TV while you're eating and you eat all your meals in front of the TV, you're not mindfully eating.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you're not aware of what you're
thinking
eating.
about it.
If I sat down with you and I said, "Okay, Eric, I'm going to give you a bowl like this size with chips in it," that's probably going to be enough, right? If it's just you and I sitting talking, or you're just sitting there by yourself, reading the newspaper or just looking outside, watching outside, that's probably going to be enough. Yeah. You'll finish it and you're like, okay, I'm done, I'm good. But if I sit you in front of the game and I give you a bag, like a party-sized bag, a massive one, you'll finish it.
Yeah.
But the difference between that party-sized bag and that bowl is astronomical.
Yeah.
That bowl is like a fifth of the party-sized bag, and that's a whole, like, fives of it. Like, it's everything, right?
And that's you mindfully...
Because you're aware of what you're putting in your mouth, you're aware of what you're eating, you're aware of what you're consuming.
That's right.
But the big thing is that if you're not being mindful of what you're eating and how much you're consuming, the sky's the limit. You can literally eat everything.
The focus is, it's kind of funny because we do it with our kids for sure.
Yeah.
No, you've had enough. That's all you need, and this and this, And like I'll eat something, and he'll eat 3/4 of what I just ate, and he's like, I'm hungry again. You're like, no way, you're hungry.
Yeah.
I'm 260 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm good. There's no way, and I'm not full. I don't eat till I'm full anymore.
No.
That's the other misconception, right? Because we're not in a civilization where we do have to hunt for our food and possibly have to keep it for weeks until we find more.
Yeah.
There's another meal coming in a few hours.
Absolutely.
Then, you don't need to eat till you're full.
No.
It takes a while for your stomach to tell your brain that you're full anyways. So
Absolutely.
just think of your full as your stomach as the size of your fist.
Yep.
And if the fajita fits perfectly in there, that should be enough.
Yep.
Then move along. Let it register.
Well, that's the thing a lot of people don't realize too. They're like, I can fit 3 fajitas in 10 minutes. It's like your body hasn't even adjusted the food yet or even understood how much food's come in. There's going to get to a point where like 10 minutes down the road from now, you're going to have this massive stomach ache and you roll on the ground holding your stomach.
Yeah.
Why? Because you've got all this indigestion now, acid reflux and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You've just literally taken the food that fits in your fist, like you just said, and you've taken this much food and tried to put it through.
Yeah.
It's literally like someone trying to take, for example, like a pen and try to fit a pen through a pinhole.
Yeah.
You can literally just keep slamming it in, but it's going to get to a point where the pinhole is just destroyed. It can't handle it anymore, right? That's how your body is, right? It's like you're constantly forcing down tons of food.
And it expands. And
Exactly.
Expands, and expands.
Exactly.
And
And
expands.
people have all these gut issues, and they have issues with their GI tract, and people have like issues with like food intolerances and stuff, right? And there's all these issues that go on with their bodies, right? And it's because they're not aware of what they're eating, what they're consuming.
It's crazy. And it's the amount of dead calories out there.
Yeah.
Like, I know, because my diet was primarily dead calories.
Yeah.
That's how I got to over 350.
Yeah.
Right? But, like, what I eat now in a full day is, I would have eaten that by 8:30 in the morning before.
Yeah.
That amount of calories.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I'll have a sensible lunch with under 1,000 calories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's... And that was in terms, and it looked like, and it was normal, portioned, if you will, meals. This is not me going overboard and having 3 Big Macs.
No.
This is normal, okay, well, a sandwich with a hash brown and whatever. You know what I mean? So, but when you add those up, they're so calorically dead and high that, like I said, with the same amounts of meals... I've hit my today's daily goal by 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had nothing good.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of protein.
Yeah.
That's all masked with everything else.
Yeah.
You could actually, like we did this the other day. We ate a burger. Like we wanted a burger. Okay, no problem, but I'll make it.
Yeah.
So I went to the store and made it. So when you look at the burger, I have the same portion size, the same, the bread was different. I made different option choices, right? Like no lettuce, spinach. Instead of a big bread, it was actually a naan bread.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I made a few little choices, and that was my cheat meal, right? Well, that cheat meal was high in protein, had a bunch of veggies in it, very low in carbs, and it tastes very close to what I wouldn't have gotten before.
Absolutely.
Which was damn near 1,000 calories with nothing good in it.
Yeah. It doesn't take long for it to add up.
It's a burger.
It's nice to see now that a lot of the restaurants and stuff like that are putting on the caloric information with food. So when you go in, people look at it and they say, okay, well, a double Big Mac is 1,100 calories.
Yeah,
they realize you're eating 1,100 calories. Like, that's a lot. Like, that for the average person,
that's like,
they could have a double Big Mac and maybe not even a single Big Mac, and that's enough food for the entire day.
That's your caloric
and that's what
intake.
Someone's sitting down to have for dinner one, maybe dinner two.
And that means you're calorically even.
Yeah.
But you're nutritionally deficient.
100%.
Like you wouldn't believe.
100%, right? And the problem is you're not consuming enough vegetables, you're not getting all the right nutrients you need, the right antioxidants and everything, and and it's easy to do that. I could sit down and I could just say, you know what? I'm going to eat an entire pack of potato patties, like hash browns.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure, I hit my caloric goal.
Yeah. Every day hit my caloric goal. Perfect.
I destroy my carb goal through the roof.
Yeah.
So much glucose floating through there. But biggest thing is, I don't hit anything else for my antioxidants. There's no nutritional value in it. There's no vitamins. There's no minerals or anything like that. And the problem is, maybe I'm dehydrated, maybe, my electrolytes are going to be low, right? There's going to be something that's going to be wrong, right? And then there's going to be issues that are going to be...
So that being said, it's great to start with looking at your calories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's a first change.
Yeah.
You can start with that change.
Yeah.
But as you get with the little win philosophy, as you get that under control, we'll start by controlling the amount of calories, then it would be wise to start substituting stupid calories for nutrition calories, right?
Absolutely.
So then again, the way I always that I like to say it, because when I began, I couldn't put myself through the process of just cold turkey complete.
No.
So again, my little one win at a time. Start with the breakfast.
Yep.
Okay, my breakfast is going to be holy. It's going to be what you need. It's going to be everything I need. It's going to have everything, my macros, perfect. The rest of the day, carry on, Eric.
Yep.
Do your shit.
Yeah.
Did that for about a week. Oh, that feels actually pretty good. Okay, well now, breakfast and 9 o'clock break.
Yeah.
Those two, don't play with, got to be dead on.
Yeah.
The rest of the day, have at it.
Yeah.
And I just incrementally did that until it was eventually all the meals.
It's small changes, little lifestyle changes, right? The problem is it's that you try to overhaul anything overnight and you're going to met with ridiculous resistance.
That's right.
If I came to you and I said, look, I know a better way for you to run your business, I want you to seize all operations and implement exactly how I'm doing it, that's exactly what you'd say. Yeah, or you'd be like, why would I do that? If I try your plan for
what do you know about forestry?
Exactly. Well, not even if I knew everything about it. But
I
said to you, try this, and you said, if I try your plan for a week or two and it doesn't work, I could lose a ton of income.
Yeah.
I could lose, contracts. I could lose. My business could fail.
Yeah.
Just because it works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you, right?
But you can say things like, you know what, Shane, I saw your business. It looks great.
Yeah.
You ever thought of adding this little increment?
Yeah.
Like, you ever thought of adding going on LinkedIn or something like that? You probably are, but you know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh, no, I haven't thought of that. Well, that little increment won't insult you.
No.
It'll let you focus a little bit and go, hey, there's a little bit of productivity coming out of this. There's a little bit of results.
Yeah.
Ooh, little results. Well, if I do this, it should have better results, right?
Absolutely.
Because the first time I was coming down the yo-yo, I just started with, didn't even touch my nutrition. Just 30 minutes of cardio a night.
Yeah.
Just started with that. After the first month, ooh, that looked good.
Yeah.
Then, still didn't touch my nutrition. Just added a bit of weightlifting with my cardio.
Yeah.
Then, oh, that really looked good. Then month 3, I'm like, started wondering, imagine if I added nutrition to this.
Yeah.
Then it kicked into gear. So be patient.
Yeah.
It's all right. You might not be fully ambitious and ready to go at 4 o'clock in the morning by week 2.
No.
That's all right. One little thing at a time, and eventually you'll build up to where it's a passion of yours, maybe.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Well, before we go, where can we reach you?
So I spend most of my time at 1665 Russell Road. You can reach me online. So I have a website. I've got to update my website a little bit, but 613fitness.ca. Spelled out, so 613, so SIX13fitness.ca. I've got a Facebook page that's in the process of updating right now, but
Okay.
you can reach me on there.
Okay.
But all my information's on the website.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm reachable by phone, email, and then I've got my location in the East End. I've also got one in the West End as well too, which is on 1701 Woodward.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
That being said, we will have a future workout together.
Yeah, 100%. I'm
We
down.
we'll record that
Yeah.
for the viewers. You'll put me through something I've never been through before, so
We'll wreck ya.
So yep, that's the please do.
Yeah.
I am not here to take it easy.
No.
So,
And I know you can take a little bit of punishment, so
Yeah.
you're good. I've seen it on the ice.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we'll get that all set up, get that recorded, and put that online too,
Absolutely.
and go through what we do there.
Sounds great.
So nice seeing you.
You too, buddy.
And,
Appreciate it.
We'll stop this recording.